Now, I think it's important to point out the difference between a rut stand and an early season stand. We're getting into early season. I see a lot of people packing their bags for an all-day sit in a rut stand, and they really don't have a great opportunity for success because rut stands are more bedding area stands and more cruising stands. The bucks aren't cruising. Early season, a lot of times they're already back in their beds, and I'm not saying there's not an opportunity on public land to go get to some island to cover, wait for the deer to come back to you off some distant ag fields, especially if people are pushing them. But that's a limited opportunity to beat them back to their beds. Maybe get to the backside of a woodlot in an island of ag country where you're just going to this little pocketbook of cover, getting into the backside and waiting for deer to come a half mile, 3/4 mile, even a mile from across the fields, getting into the backside of this woodlot, maybe a creek system running through. There are occasions that you could take advantage of early season deer movements in the morning, but for the most part, those are rut stand locations where they're near bedding and we're just blowing deer out in the early season going in. So early season stands are a lot different. I'm really focusing on afternoon food sources, and some of those stands are really good afternoon rut stands, especially look at post rut where the bucks are really, especially those mature ones, are looking for that last doe to find. So they're really looking around hard, they're seeking, chasing, and they're really following those doe family groups as they're heading out through food sources in the evening. I really love early season stands, even October lull, where you're focusing on a green food source on private land, maybe some white acorns on public land, a diversity wetlands on public land, maybe even a luscious clear cut where it's very young and there's a lot of herbaceous growth growing in on public land. You have a little corner where it's unpressured, maybe a little corner of the clear cut that is, and you can get in and out without spooking deer that are bedded nearby. Great conditions. But when it comes to private land and hunting an early season setup, I love these afternoon stand locations. In fact, this is an afternoon pass-through plot. It's probably about 1/3 of an acre, especially when it goes down through that throat back there. It gets into a 1/2 acre, 3/4 of an acre. But bottom line is this little lobe right here is a great afternoon pass-through plot. We have really good bedding out here that's been constructed. We cut this back in here on this point. We have bedding areas down the bottom behind us. So the deer are coming through here, sometimes going to our big holding plot over there where we hold them till dark. This becomes just a pass through. And so that's why too that we have a really good base of perennial in here. We have our perennial plot power. I mix that with our big boost brassica. And what it gives us is something I've been doing for a very long time, is it gives us that perfect combination of alfalfa, various clovers, chicory, and then bird's foot trefoil, so that we can pack a huge amount of perennial power in here. In fact, you can look down here where you have the alfalfa, we have the bird's foot trefoil, looks like a little bird's foot down here, and then the clover. But we have this brassica base, and then we have that beautiful field of green that this will turn into just a pass-through. When a buck comes through during the summertime, it's not big enough to hold does and fawns all summer and increase the population, create that dreaded doe factory that's very real across the country. But instead, when a buck happens to come through here, he'll know there's food here, and you can bet your bow that he'll be back during the hunting season, late October, November, during the rut. And especially this early season when those bucks shift and they're going from August to September, and they're really finding their fall grounds compared to their summer grounds of food, of soybeans, clover, alfalfa, big giant fields. We have alfalfa all over the place over here. We have soybeans in the distance. When they're done with those, when those crops are done, when they're frosted out, when the habitat's changing, leaves are falling down, they're going to shift over to a spot like this. And that's why I love these for the early season, because a buck can eat this on his way to succulent big ag fields nearby or other food sources, maybe your neighbor's food plots that are nocturnal because they pressure them. Great little pass-through plot for the early season. This is an afternoon hunt, but this redneck location right here, you can see it's walled off with switchgrass. We have the box elder, and then we have a mowed trail coming out the back through the switchgrass field. You aren't bedding in the switch, so we can get into this stand without spooking anything. We could have a deer 30 yards out here. We'd still get up the steps, get into the redneck and not spook them, and really get in and out without spooking deer. We can get in here in the morning, I believe. We're far enough away from our traditional big holding plots, areas where deer might be in the morning, but it's a little bit riskier. If we have a big buck coming through here in the morning and evening, I'm gonna put my money on the afternoon because I know I can get in and out without spooking that deer from the backside over here and then come in and watch us pass through. That's why we have the licking branch right here. We have a lot of bucks coming in. They hit the licking branch and then they head out. So we have that perfect combination where you have the perennial, they come in and hit the licking branch and then they're out of here. So we have a really good setup for the early season. Completely different than rut hunting. Yeah, we might have a big buck in here found some does on the way out to somewhere, on the way out to our big holding plot over there, running back and forth. But I'd rather be in the woods on a water hole, those cruising setups, near a bedding area in the morning. Those are those traditional rut stands that we'll check out in a second, back in a bedding area. Someplace I wouldn't want to be in the early season. But this is a spot that I want to be. It's just going to be determined on the kind of sign that we have here, what kind of trail cam photos we're getting. And I'll point out really quick, you'll see a trail cam, you know, normally I like our trail cameras when they're about 6 feet high or higher looking down. We've had some really good luck putting our trail cameras about 1.5 feet off the ground with a big wall of cover behind so they don't stick out looking up at the deer. So that's why you see pictures when they come into this right here. Camera's actually looking up at the deer and the deer don't seem to mind. They don't really look down. They're more concerned with the eye level we're finding. So we've had trail cameras down on a stump down the base, works really well. But you can bet with the trail cameras, maybe some rubs and scrapes, maybe if they're really hitting this scrape right here, we'll be sitting right there in the afternoon, evening. It's one of our really potential hot spots for the early season. Let's go check out a traditional rut spot and we'll talk about the differences of why I wouldn't even consider hunting there in the early season like I would in this location. Now here's a typical rut stand, completely different than early season stand. And I think, you know, even if you had 2 stands on your property or where you hunt, whether it's public land or private land, you could think about these differences in the stands and why one is more of an early season stand, maybe October lull stand versus a rut stand. This is a pure rut stand. What I mean by that, it's a pure morning stand because we're sandwiched in here between bedding, but we have a safe outlet for our wind. You can never look at it that, well, I'm using this spray, this gel, this machine, and I'm going to cover my scent. You can only cover your scent by making sure a mature buck or doe doesn't get downwind of you, because if they do, it's game over. I can guarantee that. People say, well, I used this, my scent was blowing right at him. Well, they might not understand thermals. Maybe that buck was heated up and he was in the rut and he just didn't notice it, which is highly unlikely. There's usually a reason why. And I find a lot of times, if you ask yourself why, outside of the magic potion formula, you'll figure things out a lot better. You know, why did that buck do that at that time? But bottom line is, this is that type of area where we can come in and hunt a bedding area, which would be a morning stand. We can sneak in here and we have a great outlet for our scent. Our scent will blow right off this ridge system. And that's what's cool when you're hunting up on these points and ridges, when you hunt elevation change, it's a huge advantage to you. But bottom line, this is a bedding area. And we save our bedding area stands till late October, early November, during that typical rut cruising time, because if we come in here too early and there's a buck around here, and he's already bedded, we spook him out. We spook him out, and especially the older he gets, it seems like the later and the longer he'll stay out of here. And that could be 3 or 4 weeks, could be 5 or 6 weeks. That puts him up to the rut time. We destroy this stand for that particular buck. It might be off on another property, might get shot. So bottom line is, the more we push that buck across other fences, the more fences he crosses, the more his chance of being killed. Probably didn't even make it to that age if we're doing that, because we pushed him off years ago. But bottom line is, we have big bedding area right here on this point, big bedding area here. Great to get in here in the morning, wait for those deer to come back to us, but we got to wait till the rut to do so. If we do this too early and we spook the deer out, we have an outstanding water hole stand right over here about 150 yards away. We have a small hunting plot besides that, about 150 yards from the water hole. And so we spook that buck out of here, we're going to destroy those 2 stand locations over there that are meant more for like the water hole. We could use that early season, late season, rut time. That's that in between. We can use it a lot of different times. And then we have that small hunting plot that's more of an afternoon, evening sit, and we destroy that. If that buck is here, he's not going to use those 2 features if we spook him out of here. So timing is everything. And I'm not saying that you're not going to get a chance because you're not hunting back here very much. What's really cool about hunting a rut stand and waiting till that morning, is a high likelihood you shoot the buck that's there. So if we have a buck that's utilized in this area later in October, November, which is basically 2 months from now, then as long as we chip away on the outside, we don't spook that buck prematurely, we have what I call a 40-50% sit, where we come in here and 40-50% of the time we shoot that buck. I hunt morning stands about 15% of my overall sits for the year, but they account for about 70% of my mature bucks that I shoot, and the oldest bucks in the neighborhood, because I'm waiting to use those, waiting for them to heat up. And when you go in and you're this close to where he's bedded, there's a great chance you'll shoot him during the rut, but not in the early season. We come in here, he's already here, we spook him. We a lot of times can't beat him in here, and the risk is too great that we spoil other stand locations around this stand. So we actually are waiting to put this stand in here. We have a ladder stand that we're putting in here from Family Traditions, and we'll stick it right here in this big beautiful oak. So we're putting it in the red oak, and we have the white oak for cover right in front of it. So that red oak, we'll put that ladder, will be right up there. We're hoping to save some of those white oak branches and keep those on the tree, because they'll be there all season long. There'll be that brown camo that'll aid and cover us up right up there. We have shots behind Dylan, mock scrape. We got a reveal camera. We can shoot all the way to the left. In fact, I see Jen's over there sneaking in on us. She thinks we can't see her. She's way down there. So she's being very quiet. We didn't even hear her come in. So, but anyways, this is a great stand. We'll set this ladder stand up here more like early September, because we have lots of time. We'll just sneak right in here, get out of here on a windy day. Ladder stand goes up super easy. We don't even have to clear shooting lanes. They're all done. Those are kind of last minute stand locations that we add, ones that we don't have to clear shooting lanes. We can just throw it up, get out of here. We're coming in on a trail. Like I said, we'll do it on a windy day. If we spook something, we still have 2 months before we use it. 7 weeks, 8 weeks, you get the picture. It'll be a long time before we come back in here after we get this set up. And you can bet the reveal with the solar panel on it will still be running, and deer are already hitting the mock scrape right there, so it'll let us know what bucks are in the area. And again, I hope you know that you can see the differences between an early season stand, more mid-October stand, versus now I want to focus on food in the early season, mid-October, October lull, unpressured food sources, and then unpressured bedding areas. Unpressured is the name of the game, but you have to know when to hunt a certain stand location. Bedding more towards rut in the morning, food more towards their beginning of the season, early season, and October lull. And if you look at that system, even you just have those 2 stand locations, might be an oak flat on public land, maybe a marshy drop to a big hardwood setting and hill system where they converge together, upland setting on public land for bedding area, that big oak flat, or maybe in a clear cut for food source. But really look at those 2 stands and say, okay, this is a food source stand, so it's afternoon, evening. This is a bedding area, so it's more of a morning stand. And I hope you know the difference, because it can pay off big when you head into the season with a great plan for knowing which one to hunt at which time of the year for a greater level of success this fall. I appreciate you guys watching the YouTube channel, but I don't know if everyone knows everything that we have to offer, whether it's on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, our website, or WHS Wildlife Blends, our seed company. Also Instagram you can check out. I'm very active on Instagram, putting strategies on there, photos of what we do every day. Much more active there than Facebook. But our seed, web classes, books, clients, articles. I have over 600 articles on whitetailhabitatsolutions.com, everything whitetail strategy. Of course, we have hats on there, and then make sure to check us out on Instagram again. But lots of stuff to offer. We're always coming out with new things, and this isn't the end of it. We have more things coming soon. Make sure to check us out.